All right, welcome everybody to a new episode. Here we are once again. I'm Chris, talking with my colleague Brian. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about outer space. Very interesting topic, lots to cover. So, I don't know. So when I think of space, I'm thinking stars, the sun, spaceships, astronauts, like aliens and stuff.
Meteors and galaxies.
Yeah,
and,
meteors, galaxies.
What else though?
Well, aliens,
Yeah.
planets, and shit like that. So, what do you think, Brian? What are your thoughts on outer space?
Well, initially I was thinking like my experience of space was as a kid. You look up at night and you're starstruck to put it in the yeah, exactly. So that's the way it was for me. And the moon really struck me as okay, it's a rock in the sky to me when I was a kid. That's what I thought. And so like they say it's like made of cheese and all this stuff about the moon.
Well, that's bull crap. But the thing is with the moon, Brian, is we human beings landed there, and it's crazy. I mean, I remember thinking, like I don't even know if I could go up in a rocket ship. Like, I don't know if I could handle it. Like, I think I could be in the ship, and I'd be fine. But everything that was cool to me growing up as a kid about a rocket ship was like the fire and all that stuff behind the rocket when it's blasting off. So if I'm in the ship, I wouldn't be able to see the fire and stuff below me on the ship. So I don't know what I'd do. I think I'd rather if they could tether me behind the ship, like hook me on a line behind the ship and just drag me so I could hold on to the line so I could look at the fire, that would be a better experience for me. I don't know, but that's just me.
No, I could see that. Like I personally would want to I'd be in the ship, but I'd want to look out the window and shit.
Absolutely, yeah,
at the stuff that we don't get to see. Maybe a piece of rock that's flying around by itself out in space. Like you see in the movie, you'll see like meteors and asteroids and shit. Like I'd want to see that stuff from a window though. Like you know.
Absolutely, I'd be near the window if I was in the ship. But for me, I'd want to be dragged behind so I could see the fire and stuff.
And you could feel it'd be fun. It'd be like for you, it'd be almost like a roller coaster. You're going fast, it's space.
And I'd still have my astronaut suit on. That's what people don't understand, is I'd still have the suit on. I just would be tethered behind it by a couple 100 feet so that I could look at the fire and the flames coming out of the rocket.
Right, exactly. You just are into the rocket, I think. It's
the flames are the coolest part to me. I'm not going to deny that. It's just the craziest part. So I could be in the rocket, sure, it'd be a good time, but I want to be dragged behind the rocket, flying through space, looking at the flames.
Yeah, I could see. Yep, that'd be a good way to experience the phenomenon of outer space. And what they say about space is they call it a vacuum. I don't know why they say that. When I think of a vacuum, I'm like
same here.
Like my mom growing up, she'd be vacuuming the house. And
yeah. I think of vacuuming a house. Yeah.
Yeah, it's are they talking is it suctiony? You can maybe be suctioned.
I think it might have to do with gravity, you're sucked down back to the planet that you're on harder than you are on Earth. So,
but in space, you see them floating, they don't look like they're being sucked.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So I think I was
that's
wrong
what
about
maybe
that.
It's a lack of sucking.
Oh, a lack.
In space, you can float and shit. like you see them bouncing on the moon. It's really like slow motion. Maybe that's what they mean by vacuum. I've been trying to figure it out, but like all sorts of scientists have studied this, and if they call it a vacuum, I can see why. I'm starting to get it, I think.
Yeah, well, that's cool. It's hard for me to understand the vacuum part, but that's cool with me. I wonder if aliens know about the vacuum. If I could talk to an alien, I would ask them about the vacuum and see what's really, really behind that vacuum theory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's so much to it. They say it's endless, like the universe, or I've heard people say there's like multiverses.
Yeah, I don't even get that. What is that?
I don't know. There's like clusters and orbits and stuff, like all sorts of like celestial entities and abstract different bodies.
So you're talking about stars that kind of move around?
Well, I've seen you see like these diagrams and these depictions of space for maybe like a space teacher might like a science teacher, like they show like this circle, like it's almost like an outline of like where the planet is going, and it moves around. Yeah. So
I had a teacher that showed me that. So
yeah, and so like all of those pathways seem circular in space, and so like
are they pathways through space?
Yeah, but they're not. They stick to that little circle or big circle. Actually, it just seems to me that that might be something to do with the vacuum. Like a vacuum, maybe there's circles. Like circles seem to be really prominent in space. Like,
no kidding. Yeah, it's pretty crazy with the vacuum and aliens. But, when it comes to planets, I'm talking about Venus. I'm talking about, I guess we'll include Mars if we want to. I'm gonna mainly focus on Jupiter, though, and talk about that big storm that they call the red spot. So if I was living there, I'd be hanging out by that red spot.
Yeah, I like thunderstorms on Earth. So like a storm comes through, I like to like listen to it. I like to hear like the drops and like the lightning bolts and like maybe a thunder crash, and like so you can imagine like a big red storm. What's going on there?
Well, if you're liking thunderstorms on Earth, just imagine the thunderstorm at the red spot on Jupiter. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be big, and I think it's just a forever storm, is what they say. Like
it's never stopped.
Is a storm.
Yeah, it's never stopped.
So like
it's a crazy storm. It's a crazy spot, and
I wonder how big it is. Like, do you know if like it's bigger than Earth, that storm?
I've heard it is. I think like 3 Earths could fit into it.
Lots of wind and shit.
Oh, tons of wind
and all sorts of
gases. I think, like hydrogen dioxide, and all this stuff. So,
yeah, all sorts of like particles and like all sorts of maybe like liquids, like all sorts of. I know what you're saying. Like there's like different substances that these planets are made of.
Well, see now, Brian, you're getting into physics, and when you're talking about particles and water vapor and gas, so you're getting into that, and that's a touchier subject, physics. So,
yeah. Are we getting away? What you're saying is we're kind of losing track of what we're supposed to like. We're talking space here. We're not talking like particle physics.
Well, physics is part of space, and astronauts like physics. Like teachers of space will talk about physics, and astronauts think it's like cool and stuff. But it's tough to talk to an astronaut sometimes about physics, because they have to concentrate on the spaceship that they're in. So,
Right. It's like physics only apply. I wonder if physics even apply like in the vacuum. I think the vacuum maybe is like void of any rules. You know what I'm saying? Like we're used to rules like that kind of govern our body systems and like our blood.
that apply?
Yeah, like it'll apply to our blood like all sorts of like vacuum like but with the suit on we're protected from the vacuum where there's no rules.
Exactly. And that's why it's hard to talk to astronauts about the physics of space, because they're so concentrated on their outfit. They're concentrated on the spacesuit. They need to take into most consideration the spacesuit they're wearing and the spaceship that they're on. So, you try and talk to an astronaut about physics, best of luck to you, because they're going to be telling you about the suit and the ship.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that physics is kind of downplayed in the astronaut community.
It is.
I think maybe they just are like more focused on the actual the systems.
Well, it's the suit and the ship. I mean, I've talked to them. You try and get into physics. You try and bring up aliens, and it's always talking to me about the spacesuit and the rocket ship, every single time. And it's weird when you see an astronaut flying around in space and you see a suit. You can understand why he feels cool. Like it's got
exactly. Chris, I've felt cool before, but like for a ceremony on Earth, like that we have, like maybe like I'll go to a wedding and I'm wearing a certain kind of outfit, I'll feel cool, but they feel so much cooler, don't they?
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean,
and then lo and behold, they came up with moon boots as like a fashion item. I remember as a kid, I had a pair of these big winter boots that they called moon boots.
Oh, they called them moon boots. Yeah,
I liked that as a kid. You'd bounce around and.
Yeah, I always pretended I was an astronaut when I had moon boots. That's what I did.
Yeah, and in the snow, it almost has that feel of a different environment from regular like summertime type of feel.
Yeah. I hear you. I guess. I had a pair of moon boots. I wore them. They were squishy, and pretty fun. So.
Yeah, it's just cool to see those trickle down effects from space exploration, like.
Right, exactly. It's like aliens are out there, and then you see alien Halloween costumes. I mean, it all trickles down. I mean, you see Halloween costumes of aliens. So
we haven't talked enough about aliens because it's like, do they exist? That's a question for outer space topic. Do they exist? Are they
nice? And
are they
what
nice?
Do they look like?
See, as a kid, I thought, I was sure that aliens were coming and they were among us. And what I thought they did is I thought that they would come down and be secretive. And like I pictured them like hiding behind trees, peeking out, looking at me.
Oh, they did.
And shit.
They did.
Like those ones with the big eyes and I pictured them peeking and like maybe spying through the windows at me, and that's what I thought that the whole alien invasion was like. They're just kind of like looking at us and maybe they know more already than we already do, but they're like kind of just like looking and shit.
Well, you're right about that.
Because they're not fighting us.
Everything that you just brought up, everything you thought of as a kid about aliens is exactly right. They hid behind trees. They were spying on us. And that's all they do. The only thing that you were wrong about is you said the big eyes. I think that they have 3 eyes. Sometimes I think they have 8 eyes. I think that they have tons of eyes, and it makes it easier to drive their spaceships. The more eyes that you have, the easier it is to see everything. And so if you need to avoid, like asteroids or things like that, and you got 8 eyes and you're in a spaceship, I mean, come on. I mean, it's just, that's how aliens are.
Well, they probably, like, they've been around longer than people, and they probably developed more eyes. I could see where you're coming from. See, I was picturing like I was like, I've seen pictures that people drew of various aliens, and usually they have two eyes, and they're kind of like people, only they're like naked and plain looking. And I don't picture them wearing suits. I picture them just having their bodies and peeking. Like maybe they like look at you weird and stuff, but I don't see them doing much.
I can picture them peeking, and I don't think they have suits, but I do think that they care about their spaceship a lot. And when they're done getting their information from us, they go immediately back to their spaceship, and the like main leader of the aliens tells everybody where to go in the spaceship and stuff.
Well, flying saucer. That's another thing we haven't mentioned. Flying saucer.
Well, that's what I mean by spaceship,
Yep.
but either way, flying saucer.
Yeah. With the flying saucer, it's I've heard tales of Air Force members seeing these ships. They're in a spot in the sky, and then they zip away real fast, and like it's a saucer, and they can be stable and just hovering, and they can also kind of zip. That's what I've heard about these saucers of the aliens.
I've heard the same thing, and the hovering thing is crazy to me because, like, when I skip a rock on a lake, which I'm really good at actually, but if I skip a rock on a lake, it'll bounce off the water, and then I've almost had it look like it's hovering like a flying spaceship for a second. And I always think of aliens when I skip rocks.
Yeah. Another thing about it though is I think these saucers they use lights. Like they'll have all sorts of lights that like flicker, and that's how they communicate. And like you'll see lights in the sky, and people might be like enamored of these lights that these aliens will project from their vessels.
No kidding. Yeah, I've heard of the light thing, like beams and
Another thing, beams.
yeah, laser beams and stuff. So you got aliens, you got their spacecrafts, tons of eyes, and laser beams. So what's mankind going to do against tons of eyes, laser beams, spaceships? I have a hard time understanding how we could combat laser beams.
Well, I'm not sure that they want to fight, because I think for them fighting's over. Like, apparently if they wanted to win, they'd already have won. Maybe they have won. Maybe we're just doing what they want us to.
Do you think that they're green?
Yes. Well, I picture that. I'm just going on what I picture, because I picture gray, I picture green, little green men.
Right. Well, that's the classic tale.
I picture gray, I picture green, and I can also picture like white, like pure white, like they're just pure as, maybe just I picture them as being pure spiritually, like they don't do anything bad, maybe.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're right about that, because if they come here and they are bad and they got laser beams, we're in for some trouble. So I hope that they're the white kind that you're talking about, like the nice ones, and that'd be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered most of what we wanted to cover with outer space. We can only hope that the aliens that they're nice, really. I mean, because everything's in their hands. I mean, we don't, at this point we can't win. So yeah, Chris, I guess for next time we'll have to talk about some more.
We'll have a space episode part 2, and we'll talk about physics. We'll bring in, we'll talk about black holes, and we'll talk about fighting aliens and everything that's tough about fighting them with their strength and stuff. So, all right, Brian, good show. Thanks for your input as always.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Cool.